or grow it. From the Stash Podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Stash Blend. I've been using Stash Blend for over a year now, and it's awesome. One of the things that I really like is that it saves me money. It's a whole bunch of different inputs in one. So I no longer have to go out there and buy a silica bottle, then a separate seaweed bottle, beneficial bacteria, then a separate one for mycorrhizal fungi. All of that plus more is in this one blend. Go to stashblend.com to learn more about it, and I also have a link down in the YouTube description section below. Thanks to AC Infinity for sponsoring this episode. They have the best grow tent kits on the market today. You get their ion board LED grow light, their grow tent, their ventilation system, clip-on fan, and their controller 69 to control it all. You also get their fabric pots, a trellis net, plant ties, and trimmers. Definitely a good price for all that you get in the kit. I'll have a link in the description section below so you can learn more about these grow tent kits, and the discount code TheStash15 works on both Amazon and their website, acinfinity.com.
Hey, what up, boys?
What up?
What's up?
The Stash Podcast. We're back, man.
We back. Man, and honestly, we've been away for quite some time. Feels good to be here. Feels good to see
What do you mean?
guys.
We do an episode every week. What are you talking about?
You're absolutely right. And it's been a week.
A whole week, though. Again, we used to do 2 times a week that we'd be, and we were talking like every single day. Eventually, I think we just got like a flow that worked well, and we've kind of just, I wouldn't say off the pedal of action, but off the pedal of kicking it.
Yeah.
So we need to do a little bit more kicking it, boys.
Lots of action, more kicking it. I like that.
More kicking
I like that. Yeah. And depending on what we're going to be kicking it, I'm not entirely sure when this episode's going to drop, but we will be kicking it in a few weeks here together in this big city.
Yeah, pretty much every time this episode drops, we will be kicking it in a few weeks or a month or so. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got to.
Actually, I think this one might even be coming afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. It was a great time in Vegas.
It was an amazing time.
I think it's before, actually.
It is? It is? Okay, good.
So if you guys don't know, if you're listening to this or if you're watching this, we like to be able to put some time and effort into these podcasts, so we do record these ahead of time. We do also have live streams weekly over on Twitch, and if you're on Patreon, we do live streams once a month, more exclusive, more intimate, just for our supporters there. So there's live sides too, but we've been trying to do some of these just more private, so to speak, and I think it's just because we want to make sure that everything's dialed in and right. We want the quality being tight, we want the information being right, and we want everything to be organized and good. And sometimes when you're live broadcasting, to download that content, it just doesn't look as good or sound as good. So we've been taking extra effort to meet and make it happen. And besides meeting in person, we meet digitally for you guys. Just, well, nobody's complained about the quality. We just hold ourselves to a standard. So. Yeah,
this is the second episode now that we are kind of doing things differently on the quality wise, right? Where we've got some of the things we're recording now in the background 4K. You know, for some of us, I think maybe all of us might actually be recording 4K. So the quality boost is just so much better than it was before through Twitch. We definitely, and then flipping screens back and forth, we now have some automation happen, utilizing AI in order to flip these screens back and forth, which is better in my opinion. I feel like the flow is just more natural, having AI do it. But yeah, this episode, if we go by our schedule here, will be released on the 26th of November, which is we're about to start that MJ BizCon week.
Oh, nice.
Happy 26th of November, everyone.
26th of November, Thanksgiving for America, if you're into that. Is it the 26th? When is?
No, 26th is a couple days after Thanksgiving.
Well, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving.
We don't, we get together, clearly not the kids, but we get together, we smoke, we do our thing, but we aren't really like Columbus people, so to speak. You know, we've got some Native American heritage, so usually we just eat and kick it, you know, so I don't really look at that day as a special thing. I give thanks for the people I have and the life I have, you know, but if anything, we'll reminisce about things. And coincidentally, reminiscing about usually herb a lot of times with my grandma, with my mom, with my grandpa, with my uncle, with that side of the family normally. And my grandma is old school with it. I mean, she's been smoking since forever. She's like 77 years old now. Her name's Rainbow, any context. She's had time with Bob Marley even in the past. Like, I mean, she's really like old school with it. So the stuff she was smoking has always been higher quality. She didn't have a whole lot of brick. And she remembers names of cultivars from the 70s. It's weird that there was a gap in time where we had like Panama Red and, you know, Thai Stick and all these, you know, high quality names, and then vanished and it was brick And then it came back now, and now we're getting names again, and now we're being able to identify the cultivars we like. But then you reminisce and look back and like, where did some of these go? You know, I miss a lot of the ones that, I don't know about you guys, but like I've had some that I talk about, some of my favorite ones in the past that I can't find anymore, but then some have been bred out and I still find comparable ones. But do you ever want to circle back to the past? Is there any in the past that you guys can think of? Let's just pretend it's Thanksgiving now. Thanksgiving. And some of your favorite genetics that you've had. Think about it.
Man, I've grown so much over the years. It's funny, like I forget things that I've grown before, and I actually have conversations with people. I'm like, have I grown that before? You're like, well, a cultivar will be brought up. I'm like, I think I've grown that before. And like I totally forget. So it's like things just kind of merge together. But there are certainly ones that come to mind right away, and ones that I do want to circle back around and grow again for either, for mostly either like the effects or the profile, whether it be taste, smell, and so on and so forth. One that comes to mind right away is Caramelicious. It was actually an autoflower, and that's by MSNL. And I did have some notes here. I did do some research on some of the ones that I'm going to mention today. It's a three-way cross between Maple Leaf Indica, Blue Black, and Afghan Kush. It's actually 70% indica, 30% sativa. Flowering time, they say 8 to 10 weeks. Autoflower, a lot of people just start counting from the day of sprout. Now, I grew out 8 of these, and I remember doing them all different ways. Some of them I trained, some of them I didn't train at all. It just grew naturally. And they all look very similar in structure. I was kind of surprised by how similar, like the bud structure was, very dense structure. Not as much trichome coverage as I see on some of these other cultivars that are out there. But as far as like taste, Caramelicious is in the name. It did have a caramel flavor to it, kind of on the back end, and like a hint of fuel as well. When you smell it, it's kind of like floral / earthy, herbal type smell. That's what I can remember. And as far as effects, what it says here in the listing is it kind of stands true, is powerful, uplifting and clear-headed, high stimulating creativity, motivation. That's what it says. And I can remember that a lot of that is that case. I remember being motivated by it. I remember kind of being sparking the creativity from it. And so that's one of the ones that I really do want to circle back and grow out again. I do want to mention that, being an autoflower, I grew out naturally, Christmas tree style on several of them. I think it was like 3 of them. I did LST on, I think, 3 of them. And the one I did LST on, if I remember, the ones I did naturally, I think it was like 4 and 5 ounces yield, okay? And then the LST ones, one of them I got 8 ounce yield off of an auto. And I was like, just kind of like blown away off of that, because I was like, is this supposed to yield that much? You hear about autoflowers like not yielding much at all, right? It's like you hear of them being less than photoperiods. And of course, photoperiods, depending on how long you veg it, you can have a big plant and get a bigger yield, so on and so forth. But, generally speaking, you hear about autoflowers not yielding as much. I would say for a 75-day from sprout, getting 8 ounces, I think it's pretty good. So another reason why I want to circle back and grow that one out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I haven't heard that one in so long.
Last time I heard Caramelicious was from him.
Dude, for me, it was caregiver days when there was a lot of cultivars out there, but a handful that people really kept around. So to hear that name, it's just like nostalgia. Brought back a whole list of ones I literally had to add to my list. As you're talking, I was like, whoa. That was my first or second run. I remember I had a buddy I traded an ounce, just a flower to, who had that. I had Vortex by TGA Subcool. That was some of the first, when you open it, everybody's like, what is that? Immediately funk that I had. That was, again, TGA Subcool. It was Romulan, Cindy 99. Let me quickly look it up. Genius and P75. All this across of 4. And this one had that Pine Sol lemon cleaner funk, but it was amongst a time where there wasn't a whole lot that had that, at least for me. So it really stood out. And I normally don't love that kind of herb, but that was the classic medical dank, we'll call it, back when there was a medical fire. And it grew great. All of the phenos at the time, I didn't really know anything about pheno or genotypes, knew nothing about that. Every bean grew the same, like very, very stable, high quality, and unique. It was the traditional kind of green bud, but the trichome production on it was just nuts, man. That's one I may circle back on if I could find it. I know it's hard to get the TGAs, but Pine Saw Funk.
Yeah, that's that reminds me. For me, I'm gonna sound like an OG poster boy here, but for me, I've been growing ocean-grown genetics for probably close to 3 years now, in some shape or another. I've had ocean-grown in my tent for a very long time. The works of Vader are, in my opinion, almost second to none, and one of my favorite harvests of all time, genetics to top, was the Dreadnought OG. I start with this one because this is just one that I can't stop talking about. It's the cross between Fader Actual and Obi-Wan OG. And this thing harvested me on a Scrog 110 4x4 and a pound off one plant. Now I trained the living daylights out of it. And what's funny is that it's not necessarily recommended to go so heavy with the training, but I did, and it reaped it. Like, the benefits were wonderful. The high was so fuel intense, like it was so it was just nasty. It was almost like a sweaty kind of terp in regards to the nasty that would come out of it. I almost feel like it would be kind of like the body odor of someone walking out of a sauna, you know. And it's like maybe not the most desired smells for some, but precisely what I'm looking for. You know, that footy, fuel intense, just nasty, and it hits you. It almost made you sweat when you opened up the bag and you just took a big huff of it, and you could just feel those cannabinoids hitting your pores. It was an incredible grow experience. I think between the two of you, you guys have really, encouraged me to consider the concept of breeding and perhaps a good pheno hunt. And I think if I was to ever consider taking that on, Dreadnought OG would be a must for that combination.
Well, like, honestly, man, I'm not. It sounds stupid to say I'm not in it for the money, but to start, it'd be tough to try to monetize being a brand new breeder in a quick period of time. But I'd love to do like what Chris and GT are doing, even if GT's doing it on his own, is collaborating with someone who's already doing it to say, hey, I'm looking for these particular things. You as the experienced person, could you help me select these things based on maybe your inventory and my inventory, and we come together and we work together? Because, like, if I could find something that comes with the fuely, funky dank that yields really well, that has like the headbanger like funk, I would slap my name on it, no question. But I'd want to make sure it's something I grow and I like, but then also the breeder knows their stuff. So Chris, whenever you're ready, let me know. We'll make it happen. There's something about having that dialed in perfection of what you like, and I think that's where a lot of these old cultivars were so different. Not old, but years back, we'll say anywhere from 5 to 10 years ago, because there's a lot more genetics that have hit the market now with the availability in the States to be able to distribute, with the internet and with popularity contests of names and looks. But I think that, like, some of these old cultivars were so different. Just the three we named right now are prime examples to bring to somebody to say, here's how bud is different. Here's how herb is actually a different thing. Because some people's like, weed is weed is weed. It's like, no. Try this one. And I guarantee you're going to be like, whoa, that was Pine Saw. That right there was a deep funk. This was a sock and a foot. Like, not even in the same ballpark. And that's why there's certain ones I'll never forget, you know? What's another one for you, Chris?
Sorry, I got interrupted by Max here. I've got
KBO.
He loves to, yeah. For those that don't know, Max, he comes in every now and then. He likes to scratch on my door, even though I have a cat door, so I got to go and let him in, or teach him how to use the cat door over again, even though the cat door's been there for a while. And then he'll come on and he wants to sit on my lap. So here he is on my lap.
And people don't know that he's already been in and out 2 times before we even started the show.
Well, now he's covering up that from the stash merch.com shirt that you got, FTS merch shirt you're rocking as we speak. I'm actually rocking one.
Hey, you got one
if you're
too?
Listening. You guys may not be seeing this, but you're feeling it. FTSmerch.com. Check it out. We'll be having drops coming up soon, and we already got stuff available as we speak.
Yeah, you ever just want to be wrapped up in a nice warm hug?
Dude, I've been wearing this sweatshirt way too much. After you wash it like once or twice, it's got that snug feeling. Now it's like I only wear it for a few hours because I don't want to get it messy. But I put it on in the daytime as my snugly warm. It's so like...
Especially now that it's snowing, man.
It's comfortable.
Dude.
You commented on my post there, Chris. You're like, it's snowing up there already? Just a whole different world?
It snowed here.
And I was like, whole different world. He's right. He's
well,
right.
I
This
guess
guy's
November,
in the desert.
It is due for snow, right, in November.
Yeah.
But it snowed in
my
October
snow came
for
2
you,
weeks
right?
ago. Yeah,
wow.
it snowed 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Wow.
He sent it to me, and then I had it for
I knew
Halloween. Yeah, it was horrible. Horrible.
Wow. But yeah, let me go next with favorite cultivars, man. I've gotta throw this one out there, and I know you had mentioned, Rob, it's like something that we haven't grown in a while, but this one I have grown recently, and actually I just harvested it, and I grew it out several times in the past and love it. It's Peanut Butter Breath by Thug Pug Genetics.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you've grown that out before, Rob. I'm not sure if you have P.
Yeah,
but
yeah, some fire.
Definitely fire. So it's Dosey Do crossed with Mendo Breath F2. And this was actually gifted to me. Give credit where credit is due. This one gifted to me from THC Titan from Square One Genetics way back in the day. I got some Briskers from him, Brisker OG from him. And then I don't know what exactly he was doing with the Peanut Butter Breath. It was an F2. He nicknamed it Titan's Breath. And I'm not sure exactly what he was doing with the breeding project. I got to imagine that he was pheno hunting this, found what he was looking for, and used the offspring to create an F2, and then maybe he used that to use on his line. I don't know. I need to get him on my podcast, or we need to get him on this podcast.
Yeah, I like this podcast too.
Yeah, and talk to him about that because, man, he's somebody who has a lot of knowledge when it comes to breeding. He's been around for a little while now. I think well over 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, Peanut Butter Breath by Thug Pug Genetics, Indica/sativa variety. I'm not really sure what it leans towards. I would think it would be the Indica is what it leans towards because of the effects in particular is more heady effect, couch lock for me, narcotic effect, can make me sleepy. Really when I'm just looking to chill, not really do work or anything like that is when I'll go after the Peanut Butter Breath. But what in the name is peanut butter, and that's kind of within the taste. So it does have a sweetness. A lot of people say it resembles peanut butter. I don't know if I would say that. I personally think that for the smell, people say it's spicy, but I always imagine just taking a whiff of a cookie jar with they used to have sugar cookies in it, and that smell, I always go to that ever since whenever I harvest it and whenever I smell it and about to consume it. And so that's kind of what I get out of it. But a lot of people say that it does smell like a sweet with a touch of floral, and then some earthy or woody, musky is kind of what
I get like a nutty funk out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it almost has just a deep funk, man. Thug Pug has brought some dank. Thug Pug's actually from my hometown, and Pug's Breath is another one that comes with that. And those it's almost exact same effects of heavy, couch locky, sedative, good medical for people a lot. It's just a lot of times those aren't the best yielders, so people have bred them out, and it's hard to find those originals. I was wondering where you got them. Like, damn, I live local and I can't even secure those. They were growing Pug's Breath at Franklin Fields. That was fire, but it didn't yield as much, and they don't like good weed there, so it disappeared. And I think that there's a lot to do with the breaths, the Mendo Breath starting point of it. If you find that right one and you take that florally kind of funk, but then you get that cookie-ish, nutty butter funk to it, man, that's hard to find. And the fact that you got that one, I want it badly.
Yeah, I'm trying to monster crop it to bring it back because that was actually my last seed. And I'm trying to monster crop it, bring it back, keep it around. Probably should have cloned it to begin before even flipping over to flower. But, I flipped it over, then saw it grew, and I was like, this is a freaking keeper. I got to keep this. So snipped off one of those lower branches. Well, yeah, potentially. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I would definitely use it. This one is as far as growth, we talk about growth a little bit. It's long, stretchy, like longer internodes. I feel like it was an easy feeder for me. Super easy to just keep the leaves green at all times. It wasn't picky. Smaller, but like chunky buds, heavy trichome production. But the fact that it's like long, stretchy, it typically like towards the end of flowering, it'll kind of flop over. I like to put it in a tomato cage. So I used it this round. Put it in a tomato cage. So that like a 3-foot tomato cage, and even flipping the flower when it was like, I don't know, maybe a foot tall, the thing stretches like crazy. So it like stretched like crazy, long internodes. In the tomato cage, it worked out fantastic, for support. But I can imagine some people doing, a scrog or a double layer scrog net, double trellis nets. But yeah, I'm big fan of this one, and I hope that this monster crop actually roots, because I want to keep this around for sure.
Well, when you look at like a cultivar like that, I think that the technique you're doing there is great, or the bamboo. I've seen like Green Goblin, he uses the bamboo kind of same setup, but he makes his own tomato cage with that so he can widen it out. Because if you're going to trellis that and you're going to really do a scrog, your square footage of your yield is going to kind of suffer because of that stretch that it has.
Yeah.
Versus letting it grow more, vertical is going to just. I think that there's certain cultivars that can take that style, and that's why you see a lot of times Peanut Butter Breath does well in commercial settings with Grodan cubes and the double trellis, because it's thin and tall, and they could just put a ton of them in a room. But then breeding that with maybe a short squatty like a Brisker or something, or finding the chill out that has that and bringing those together so you can get some of that funk, but then you'll have less of that characteristic in the growth. Because that's why that one left as Thug Pug's Pug's Breath from Franklin, it was lanky, small buds, not as easy to trim. Probably a really good squash cultivar, good for extractions. But the flower smokes so good, the yield is more for a home grower, in my opinion. If you're more just focused on quality like myself, I'll grow those all day. I hope it works. It won't be ready when I come, damn it, but man, I need it.
You mentioned potentially crossing it with the Brisker. So the Brisker OG parents are Tahoe OG crossed with Peanut Butter Breath. So it's already in the Brisker genetics. So then maybe you
bring out some of the Peanut Butter Breath characteristics even more, because again, it's hard to find that Peanut Butter Breath nowadays. I don't think that Thug Pug's even putting any out. You got to kind of know him and get him direct. There's old beans online, but trust me when I say if they're not stored properly, they will not pop. I've got a bunch that I didn't store properly, and I'm just starting to try to pop now. They're not doing good at all. They're not germinating or anything, but they just were sitting in a room in a box, like no environmental control at all. And that's the tough part. Some of these genetics, your favorites over time, you get the grass is greener mentality, or even like in Chris's case, just don't think about cloning it. And you don't have a massive place to just be constantly cloning a ton of stuff all the time. So you really got to think about it. And it's tough as a home grower to decide when to hold them, when to fold them. It's the smoke that's great, but then you got to also look at the growth. And clearly that's why that one maybe didn't make the cut initially, because it was like, yeah, this big wacky inflatable balloon man in my garden ain't really going to be making the cut, getting me 2 Z's a freaking harvest. But it just depends.
It's hard having genetics like that too when you're putting your content online. It's hard to explain to people. It's like, it's doing that on its own, man. Like she's just gangles, and that's just the way she grows, and the buds are small, but it's fire. And that's just when you put in content online, it's like, I hate to say it, but it's like, it's unfortunate when that happens, because I just did these 2 girls. I did Dreadnought OG by Zaza, and then I did Dead Ops OG by Zaza and Dreadnought by OG. And I let them both go. I didn't touch them. I did a little bit of lollipopping just to let them kind of, obviously I want to keep them refreshed, bug-free, but I let them grow. And I did have a few issues with them, but the amount of comments in regards to like, you're not going to touch those? Like, you're just going to let them go? Why do they look so tall? They're getting really close to the light. It's like, yeah, this is unfortunately the way she grows. And you're going to take a little bit of flack for that. So it's like, next time, fine. I'll fill a tent again with one plant, 4x4, and get a pound off of it. And then I guess it'll validate myself.
Yeah, well, that's what matters most is those I suppose
people who
still watch read videos who compare, I guess. I don't know. If you're growing good smoke, that's what matters most. And it's funny you say that because this brings me back to a cultivar that made its way around heavily in the caregiver days, and the only reason that it disappeared was because of the yield. Because people were like, well, yeah, but my GDP's got bigger buds than that, or my God bud's doing better. That was a Black Domina. And if you had the particular cut of Black Domina, this was a Northern Lights Ortega and Hash Plant and Afghani all crossed. But if you had the particular one, it was like black, purple funk, like super hardcore, but the buds didn't stack very well. Like the node space was definitely worse than you'd want. And it wasn't big fat colas. And at the time, big fat, people wanted the Fago bottle cans. They wanted it to just be fat monster nugs. It didn't matter anything because there was a lot of good smoke that had fat monster nugs. But this one in particular, at the time, was when there wasn't a lot of purple herb. There was GDP, like Purple Kush, and Black Domina. In my neck of the woods, at least. Those are the ones that were purple. Otherwise, everybody else was just freezing their plants and stressing them out and making them look purple from, like, basically just environmental conditions hurting the overall quality. And Black Domina, for me, was one that the smoke was always on point, but it was super lethargic. Like, it was definitely my nighttime smoke, my fall asleep herb. Because constantly, I'm talking probably 9 times out of 10, I would be ready for bed after consuming. Like, it was just sleepy stuff. But I broke my shoulder and my wrist and elbow in a dirt biking accident years ago. And I was on probation, and I wasn't supposed to be consuming. But things happen. I would be sick anytime I'd have an opiate. Tylenol 3s would make my stomach just shred. So the doctor prescribed them to me, but I didn't eat them. I had a buddy who made me some brownies with Black Domina, and it was the best pain reliever I've ever had in my life. Like, I was like, it actually works. I lied saying medical stuff for years, and I was like, this actually works. Wow. And it was more the fact of me being ignorant and not knowing that my body and my endocannabinoid system didn't react to certain cultivars the same way. Black Domina was one that was it, and I didn't keep it around because it was a dick measuring contest then, and it was who had the bigger, better buds. So I moved on to Purple Kush and to GDP, and they had bigger, better buds, but it was nothing in terms of the potency and the terps of the Black Domina. RIP.
Man, when you speak of it, it reminds me of like I had a Bubba cheese, and I've had a UK cheese, and then I've kind of just learned that if there's a cheese in that, I want it, man. I've learned over the years that if there's a beginner or if there's someone that's just looking to get into growing, I will recommend a cheese. It's very simple to grow. I feel like you can throw just about anything at it when it comes to your regimen, whether it's a heavy feeding regimen, whether it's a training regimen. The cheese is going to respond to it. Absolutely love how pungent and nasty. Again, I don't mind the sweet genetics because my next one's going to be a sweet one, but I don't mind the fuel and the funk either. I got a pretty wide palate. I like to avoid the pinene with that, like the citrus, that orange flavor as much as I can, mainly because it's just, I don't mind some of it, but a whole bunch of it. I think it's the pinene, but I'm not entirely sure what citrus. The limonene, sorry. Yeah, the citrusy, not the pinene.
Taste and herb is like music, man. You've got a very wide spectrum of like, you like a lot of stuff, but if it leans too heavy thug rap or too heavy metal, you know what I'm saying, too heavy country, like
too much. No. But yeah, it's I got a wide palate, not picky. But cheese to me is something that I could recommend to just about anyone because it's got enough of that funk, but it's got enough of those like earthy kind of like that sage kind of flavor to it that it's not that standoffish. Unlike like a dreadnought or I'm sure a headbanger that's just really like a punch in the face of that funk. And I know that people kind of veer from that because it's not ideal. There was a whole era of a herb, if you will, where we avoided the skunk because the skunk had that smell that would essentially get you prosecuted because it was a telltale sign that there was some illegal activities going on in the area. So some people avoid that. Again, with the cheese, I feel like it's a nice mellow, pungent of both sides, both the funk and a little bit of the earthy. And grew wonderfully. So, yeah, when I hear you speak of Dahlia, Black Dahlia,
Black Domina.
Domina,
Black Domina, yeah.
Black Domina. That reminds me of the cheese.
Yeah, man, I've had some good cheeses in the past. I've had some very good cheeses, but now it's like, again, this kind of hybridizes an old episode we had, and if you're listening or watching, check that one out. Is Lost Cultivars Over Time. I forgot the exact name. Best old ones we've lost. I don't know. Check it out. It's on the channel. But man,
Old school strains that we miss, I think, is what it's called.
old school strains that we miss. Chris is probably a lot more right. Some of these are like,
Usually is.
you can find names that match, but the credibility of it, you know, Peanut Butter Breast is a prime example. Black Domina, Vortex. You're lucky to really get the actual one. You're gonna get like a replica more times than not, unless you can find a cut or you can get it from the breeder. Because it is hard to find a cheese nowadays that really has the cheesy funk. It just has the name cheese, but there's no, like, that cheese used to be in the terp department. That's how you would describe stuff. It's like, that's a cheesy funk. Blue cheese nowadays is like sweet or citrusy. I'm like, that's not blue cheese. What is this? You know, I've had UK cheese. I've had Cheezel. I've had Big Buddha cheese. Those were all hitters of cheesy, funky, like, where you either like it or don't, you know? But nowadays, it's really hard, man. I haven't even heard of a cheese. So that brings me again down memory lane. Miss it.
Yeah,
Those are good
I love
ones.
myself a cheese. Never grown out a cheese. It makes me want to add that to my bucket list to grow out. But as far as consumption, one of my favorites. I like cheese in real life too, all types: provolone, Swiss, cheddar.
I don't like Swiss. But
You
almost
like
all the other
blue?
ones.
You like blue cheese?
Yes,
You know, I had
Not
blue
even
cheese.
human, Christopher.
we had this conversation
Jesus.
before. I know.
Black
We're like-
coffee and blue cheese. Maybe not together, but
He's half alien. He's Anunnaki. There was one time, man, I went to a buffet and I was and I was young. It was like Old Country Buffet or Ponderosa. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have a salad and be healthy. And I wanted to put 10 globs of ranch on with cheese, of course, real healthy. I go hard, just pouring it on there. I go back to my table, take a big bite, and I wish my nose would have picked up what I was biting into. But it's blue cheese. Oh man, that ruined my life for
Chris
a
is
long time.
just salivating.
so good. I like it on burgers. So as far as it's not really good for me on salad, but burger, like the blue burger.
So I've never had that. That could be
Bacon.
different, but man,
I
you
have
put it on my
never
salad,
had
I'm gonna
blue
fist
cheese.
fight you in the streets. Like,
Unpopular opinion, I'm sure.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I have the only things I don't like in life. There's only two things, and I've never tried either one of them. Blue cheese is one of them. I've never tried it. Might even like it, but
Cottage
just the
cheese?
concept of it. I've never. I won't eat it. I've never.
I
had
won't
it.
either. It looks like old milk.
I won't eat it.
It takes some getting used to, I'm sure.
You like
sure.
cottage
I
cheese,
think I liked
Chris?
it at first. What?
You like cottage cheese?
That's one thing I don't like.
Okay, so that's what I'm
That's
saying.
that.
Like that's
a shit I
universal.
don't like.
Like either you fuck with it or you don't. And sorry, Jesse, you got to edit that one out. Don't
Yeah,
edit
me
out the
too. I
lack
just
of
realized
us
it.
liking, not liking a nasty cheese. It shouldn't even be in the cheese family.
I've tried multiple times. I remember trying when I was like young and just ugh. And then like I tried older. I tried like a year or two ago. I'm like, you know what? Try everything twice, right? So here we go. Tried it and still just like
Just let it
couldn't-
roll out of your mouth.
Couldn't get it down. I know some people mix it with other things in order to kind of.
Some people just put that shit salt and pepper on it.
Ugh.
Yeah, sprinkle it all over your tuna fish and then.
Have
was
you eaten
hungry
it
before
at a
we started
cottage
this.
though? Have you eaten it in a cottage?
That might be the difference. Is if
That
you have it
is
at a
the
cottage, you know, that could be it.
Probably. There's one more I wanted to mention as we get
What you
back
got?
on topic here.
If we must.
You know, favorite cultivars, one thing I got to name it is
Mm-hmm.
Chilled OG. You know, bred by me. So a cross that I created.
Shameless plug for once.
There we go. Sure.
He never. This motherfucker's
Finally.
too humble. He never. He makes himself too little. I do it sometimes too. It's for fire. I wouldn't shout it out. You don't pay me nothing. You're my homie, but I would tell you the truth. It's fire.
I'm glad you like it. I was actually worried that you wouldn't like it because
Dude, I'm
of
such a snob,
you know,
too. I'm telling you,
taste
it's
and
good.
flavor profile. But it's a cross of Brisker OG and Pakistan Valley. It's an indica dominant hybrid. Flowering time 56 to 62 days. As far as taste, you know, it really depends on the generation. I'm down to generation F3 now. It's a little bit not all over the place as like an F1 or an F2 would be, but anything from like fruity, citrusy. Some have been sweet. earthy, and kind of with the fuel on the exhale is kind of the best way I can describe that. That's not all in one pheno, right? You can get different phenos kind of vary there. Smell is, a lot of the phenos are real earthy. Pine, lime is kind of the best way. And then some phenos are on the fruity side of things as well. And I didn't know you were crazy about like earthy. That's the reason why
I like earthy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought, for some reason, I thought I remembered you talking about how you didn't really like earthy and you didn't really like fruity.
Fruity and floral.
Okay.
Those are my two. But the earthy that you had, it reminded me a lot of the Lost Coast OG and the Desert Diesel that I had years ago. Just hit in like a soily, piney, earthy, old school, almost in a Durban Poison even, where I'm just like, this tastes old school. This tastes like when I first got chronic. You know what I'm saying? And like that's what I was saying with the Vortex. That was like medical, we'll say. It was this sharp, weird, like, whoa. And then there was chronic, which is what I lean for. That was the skunkier, herbal, earthy, natural kind of funk. And now everything has gotten so much further from there. And it's like we're having a bunch of strawberry daiquiris and wine coolers for flower versus I want like the musky, funky, deep, like I'd be like the whiskeys, you know what I'm saying? Or like the scotch. That's where I lean. And it's not for everybody, but the pheno that I had, well, that I have is way earthier. It's like there's no fruity, not even the littlest hintess of nothing. It's soil, earthy, exhales a piney gas. That's the one I like.
I imagine that's coming from the Pakistan Valley, which is a land race. And so a lot of people have used that to kind of start lines. And a lot of people like to use land races to kind of begin. And, that's old school. And that's probably kind of what reminds you of back in the day is it's coming from that. But as far as like how it grows, particularly with the F3 generation, most of the phenos stay more squat with tighter internodes. All phenos really that I've grown on had real dense buds, heavy trichome production. Sometimes the trichome production really doesn't ramp up until mid-flowering, towards late flowering. Excellent cultivar for those growing in real small spaces. And it's funny, I've grown out so many of them now. And with the F3s in particular, there's some I didn't even need to train at all. Literally it grows up and she's got all these side branches, nice even canopy.
Self-topping almost.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I do recommend for those folks that are in small spaces. But some of the effects really, it comes down to euphoric, very relaxed. I get hungry off of it. And sometimes I get sleepy off it. I can get... if I consume too much, I can easily go to bed. You know what I mean? So definitely had to mention the Chill It OG. It's something I've personally worked on since 2019, if I remember correctly. My stoned mind remembers correctly. That's when I started working on it, and here we are in 2023, and it's gone down multiple generations, multiple pheno hunts, and I'm pretty proud. And I know there's tons of people now that are growing it out. It was released this year, and so now I get flooded with people on IG in particular that are posting, and then I'll repost on my story and stuff like that. It's really cool seeing what people are doing with this. It's awesome. And,
I get tagged daily in it.
If you're tuning in on and you're growing it out, post it on IG, and I'll definitely repost it on my story. I'd love to see what people are doing with this. And I know some people using breeding projects like, let's see, we've got Welcome to the Grow Tent. He's using it in a project. We've got Cartier Crops. He's using it in a breeding project. And so I'm excited to see what ends up with it. So had to mention
awesome.
That one.
No, dude, it's awesome. Now I'm going to have to mention Headbanger because I know someone's going to say it. Headbanger's fire. Sour Diesel, Biker Kush, Karma Genetics, dank. Low yielder, but so gassy. If you could find it. I talked it up so much that I can't even find it now. I need to get beans of it. I can't find it anywhere. I got to stop. Like, this can happen to Chill Out OG. Luckily, I know you. But it'll get to the point where it's like, man, it's the AC Infinity effect. You know what I'm saying? It gets so popular and supply and demand don't meet because there's not enough supply because it's quality. But the demand exceeds the supply. So, like, that was one that I loved so much, but Regulate would be my last one. And that one was Scapegoat Genetics. I don't love the guy because he ganked me on some flower in person. If you're listening, I still remember. It's a QP for personal. But anyways, his Regulate is Blissful Wizard, which is dank, crossed with Nom Nom. Both very, very fire. Very good. This one was a nice, good yielder, but it was a gassy, earthy, almost burnt rubber kind of funk. You know what I'm saying? Lean towards that. Really unique, and I wish I would have kept it around. When it was Regulate and Headbanger, Trey preferred Regulate over the Headbanger because it just had more of almost a sour on the exhale, but it was really, really good, man. I didn't keep it around by accident. It was at the time when I was cloning by color, so to speak, right? And I had color collars that I'd use for the aeroponic cloner, and I had it in my phone. I got a new phone, and I signed into Google Keep, and my note wasn't there, and I'm like, oh no, what was the purple? Oh, what was the orange? I had like all different colors, and I mislabeled a few of them, and I didn't clone that because I thought it was one that I didn't want to keep. And now if I just tuck my tail between my legs, get it back from old boy, but once you gank me on some flour, I'm a little bent. You know, it's a little hard to go back on, especially from the breeder. What the hell? Like,
Yeah,
that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Like, oh man,
That's unfortunate. Yeah, if I can cheat a little bit, I want to mention one that I've actually never grown, and I've only tried one time, but over the course of a week. That was Curb Stomper, baby.
Oh man, that Curb Stomper was fire.
Was that
That's
late?
THD Titan, wasn't it?
No, that's Prism Labs.
Prism Labs.
Prism Labs.
That's Chronic from Chris Chronic from formerly of North Genetics, and he went off and did his own thing in Prism Labs. It's a cross of ISO 8 cross with Deadhead OG.
Ooh,
the
Deadhead
Deadhead.
OG. That should have made my list too. I paid money back when paying for clones was $10-$20. I paid $100 for a clone of that one. It was a hitter. Man, I forgot about
Yeah, it was a fantastic smoke. It again, same that funky, fuely. Man, it was just
sweet exhale. Like it was a.
Remember, you ever had?
That was a complex,
It was,
very complex one. And you said you're going to have that when we come out there, Ken, right?
Yeah, so just to give folks a little bit of background, was it 2 years ago I had it and I brought it out to you guys, so we all consumed it at the same time.
that was our first trip to Vegas.
Yeah. First time be to get pursed.
Yeah, that was cool. So I gave it to you guys, and I thought it was just super unique. That the floral taste is like, ooh, whoa!
It's the fire floral.
It's so unexpected. Nothing like I've ever tasted before. It definitely has a hint of fuel on the exhale, like I think it was Rob that just mentioned that, or maybe it was P. But yeah, I grew that one out a couple times now. Longer internodes, golf ball size buds.
That's a tough one.
Chunky, dense, covered in trichomes, easy feeder. I had a trellis net for support. I loved it. Yeah, that's going to stay in my garden for sure.
Yeah, it'll be one that needs to get into mine. You remember when you were a kid and like that song came on from like the Hansons or whatever, and it just maybe not particularly that song, but you know how it just takes you back to a moment in time. That's what Curb Stomper does for me. Like I feel like
that'll be nostalgia. Our first time meeting is going to be that.
It's going to be. We're going to bring that back. We got to like keep having that in our circle, so we can always just be like, from the first time where we came from. And I think that's what's beautiful about genetics in general is just how they can they can speak to you as a person. They can speak to you as a grower. They can speak to your rhythm and your mood, and they can put you to sleep. You know, it's like a good genetic can really go a long way in the garden. And it's amazing. And I'm so thankful that I've had the opportunity to just grow some fire herb. The downside is like anyone, I should have cloned it. I should have been more big.
I've been
like I should have been
all the time.
You're not alone. You and 100,000 other people. Clone. It should be a problem that you have too many clones and not enough clones.
And you just pitch them, worst case.
Yeah, exactly. You cull them. That'd be the worst case. Worst case, rather than having this incredible fire gone in time, because you will never get that expression again. You might.
Well, it's a memory.
Boy, you'll try to find it.
You tie that genetic back to a time that you consumed it, and it's just like a song. Like you'll remember these things, it's that nostalgia, and you'll never forget it, man. These are things. If you're a real consumer and you're a real, connoisseur or connoisseur, we'll say, you'll never forget certain cultivars, man. They'll just linger in your mind, and you'll smoke something or vape something, and it'll bring you back there. And that's really why I think the episodes like this are gold. And I do think that a part 2 could come. So I got 6 more on my list that I didn't mention.
Totally.
And,
Yep.
if you guys
I barely got into my list. I named 2 and one of someone else's. So I get you.
I know, and I added because Chris was saying these, and I went and added more to my list. 'Cause I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And yeah, man.
We've been doing this a long time.
Yep. Let's do a part two. If you want a part two, let us know in the comments for sure, and we'll do it. We'll do it. And let us know in the comments what your favorites are that you've either grown or consumed. I want to know. I love to hear about that. And yeah, I'm always looking to grow out some new stuff. So
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Make sure also, if you're listening, watching, regardless, make sure you follow, subscribe, check us out on social media. We're out there on pretty much every platform at this point. And on Patreon, we do live streams, exclusive content, and tons of just basically intimate one-on-one stuff because you guys are our main sponsor, your main supporter. And check that out, patreon.com/fromthestash.
Yeah, that's for our uncensored
merch, baby.
We have our own uncensored live streams that now go on there. Early releases go on there. And then you get, actually in the premium tier, you can get producer credits. So it'd actually be hard-coded in the episode, which we're going to roll right now in the episode. Thank you to the Patreon supporters that allow us to do this. So really appreciate that.
We are crowd-funded, guys, so thank you so much for being a part of that. Exclusive, interactive live streams every month, so come join in on that. And if you are looking for some premium plant additive, go to stashblend.com and go check out a product that the three of us came up with, and we think it'll seriously change your game by eliminating a ton of bottles in your garden. It's got a host of ingredients in there that will benefit you and your garden. So go check it out at stashblend.com. And if you want to get some of the merch that these two guys are wearing, because I forgot the memo, stashmerch.com. Stashmerch.com, you can get everything. Embrace yourself in a nice, warm hug of some of the best merch in the game at stashmerch.com. I think that does it for us, guys.
That's it.
With that being said, it's your boy Rob from the show and CLtv, Mr. Grower, a.k.a. Chris, if you really know him. Pigeons 420, also known as Pigeons 420, and we will see you guys next time. Stay
Peace.
Peace.